Welcome to First Mover, your first look at today's action in the Bitcoin, blockchain, and digital asset space around the world. I'm your host, Kristin Lee, and joining me are my co-hosts, Coindesk Managing Editor of Global Capital Markets, Lewitinn, and Managing Director of International Content, Emily Parker. Good morning, Emily and Lawrence.
Good morning.
Good morning. Taking a look at what's going on with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is rising as well as the crypto markets. The Coindesk Bitcoin Price XVX Index is currently trading at, 45,973. Actually, it's trading about flat right now. And the Coindesk Ether Price ETX Index right now is 3216. ETH is up almost 1.5% over the past 24 hours. And the DFX, Coindesk's DeFi Index right now is up almost 4%, trading at $705. The most reliable reference prices for institutions since 2014 are now published under the Coindesk brand, trusted globally as the leader in crypto news events and data. So we've got some CPI numbers out, Coinbase earnings as well. What's going on with the markets, Lawrence?
Interestingly enough, you said it's flat, and it is. But overnight, actually about 5 o'clock this morning or so, we saw $300 million worth of Tether move into FTX, and then we had the premium on what is for leverage trades has been in the positive. So ultimately, that kind of points to something bullish. If you're seeing that many dollars or dollar proxies in the form of stable coins go to an exchange, that could yield down the road, and by down the road I mean in a few hours, some sort of pop or buying, etc. So we might not be out of this recent rally yet, even though we're taking a pause right now. I'm not gonna say either way which way it's gonna go, but there are a couple of bullish signs here and there pointing at least something positive in the very near term.
Interesting. Emily, anything you're paying attention to?
It's really interesting. We've had crypto Twitter crying disaster for the past couple of weeks about the infrastructure bill. The market is not reacting in that way. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. It looks like the infrastructure bill is not, at least in the short term, it's not going to be compromised or amended, but the market doesn't seem to care. So that's what's interesting me.
Yeah, for sure. And also, Coinbase stock is up today, about almost 4%. Crypto exchange Coinbase posting nearly $2 billion in transaction revenue in the second quarter, exceeding expectations in its second ever earnings report as a public company. Coindesk Banking and Economics reporter Nate DiCamillo listened in on Coinbase's earnings call Tuesday afternoon, and he joins us now. Hi, Nate. So would love to hear, you've been covering these companies. Give us the highlights of what you heard from the call yesterday.
Sure. So where Coinbase in their second quarter earnings beat most analysts' expectations on revenue, and also on their monthly transacting users, which is the people that are using their app every month. They posted 8.8 million, which is a record for them. And the company did note that in July, both MTUs, or monthly transacting users, and trading volume was down as compared to previously, and it's ticked up slightly in August, but they expect Q3 to slow down a little bit compared to Q2, but definitely a blowout quarter for this one.
Hey, one thing that struck me was Ether volume, that the Ether transaction volume was higher than Bitcoin volume on Coinbase in Q2. So did they elaborate any more on that?
Oh, I think Nate is frozen on us, unfortunately. Nate. All right. We will try to get back with Nate until we get him back. But yes, we did see that Coinbase grew to about 8.8 million in monthly transacting users and 68 million total users in the quarter. But they also warned that the number of monthly transacting users and trading volume would be lower in the third quarter, kind of giving a nod to the action we have seen in the crypto markets, a bit of a lull toward, after May. So it is going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, that's the big question about Coinbase and just this exchange business model in general, is like how dependent it is on the cycles of the market, right? So Coinbase's numbers are very tied to a bull market. what happens when that goes down? That's going to be the real question. It's going to be the next earnings report that I think is going to be quite interesting.
I think we have Nate back. Nate, you were just in the midst of giving us your highlights.
Yes, and Emily, I agree with you in that a lot of people have tied the coin stock, their stock, to the price of Bitcoin. I think it's tied. Most analysts see it as tied to volatility. So because even though the price of Bitcoin went down significantly in the second quarter, it was because of how volatile it was that Coinbase made so much money. Their third quarter is probably going to be a lot less profitable because Bitcoin has been much less volatile as it hangs in lower, like 30, 35 range in June and July. One thing that analysts very much care about is their take rate increased in the second quarter. So how much money, how much yield they could make off of the transactions that they had increased to 1.24%. It had before been going down from 1.21% in the first quarter, 1.4% in the quarter before that, 1.46% in the quarter before that. So it had been steadily declining. So this is the first time we actually seen like their take rate for retail trading actually tick up a little bit.
So Nate, we were talking before about Ether volume, and you got cut off. They noted that there was more Ether volume transactions there. There were more transactions in ETH than in Bitcoin. Did they elaborate any further in the call?
So they did not elaborate very much in the call, Lawrence. Their call was moderated by a Coinbase PR person. So they did get questions kind of about what their plans were as related to DeFi and NFTs and that sort of thing. But they didn't. You're right. They didn't go much into why Ether took up 26% of that trading volume. Bitcoin is 24%, and other crypto assets were 50%.
Nate, you're also keeping in touch
definitely
with
the dominant player in the U.S., right? But who are Coinbase's main competitors? Is it Robinhood? And are there sort of competitors just like waiting in the wings? I mean, is there anything that Coinbase needs to be aware of that could come and like challenge their dominance?
Yeah, Emily, I think that in terms of competitors, I mean, we just saw PayPal allow people on Venmo who are getting Venmo cash back on their cards be able to put that into crypto. So Venmo, PayPal, Robinhood, Coinbase is competing with other fintechs that are getting into this space. Probably as you begin to see banks get into offering crypto investing options, and if they put that into their mobile apps, that will become a pretty big competitor to Coinbase.
How about more crypto native exchanges like FTX US, Binance US, or even Kraken?
Yeah, I think that each of those, as well, Kristin, would be pretty big competitors to Coinbase. I think this is why they had a spate of acquisitions, which they unfortunately didn't talk about much on the call, but their acquisition of Bison Trails, which is now Coinbase Cloud, of their acquisition of Zabo, which is a cryptocurrency data aggregator. All these different, they're trying to kind of diversify away from just being so heavily reliant on retail trading, which is what the largest criticism is of them, among analysts.
And Nate, you've also been keeping track of the latest consumer price index numbers. Anything to report on that?
Yeah, so this latest report, regular CPI came in slightly above the expected 5.3%. Core CPI was 4.3% year over year, which came in under the expected 4.4% among economists. So looking at the report, the biggest decrease in inflation was in used cars. We saw that in June sequentially increased by 10.5%. In July, that was 0.2%. So that is a pretty big win for the kind of the folks who talk about transitory inflation. So that's this could be like the peak of that kind of inflation kind of cooling down. Bloomberg said it was moderating. It's a main inflation slightly above, core inflation slightly below expectations.
All right, Nate, thanks for the update. That was Coindesk business reporter Nate DiCamillo. And we are also watching developments out of Washington, D.C., the Senate passing a $3.5 trillion budget that aims to fund climate change, healthcare, and education while raising taxes on the wealthy. This after passing as well a $1 trillion infrastructure bill with a crypto provision that raises privacy concerns in the blockchain space. Joining us now to discuss is Blockchain Association Executive Director Kristin Smith. Thank you for joining us, Kristin. So anything, first off, surprising out of this budget bill, this $3.5 trillion budget bill?
No, there's nothing surprising that came through that. And this, it's important to know that this is really the parameters for the budget bill. It's not the final form. But why it's important for cryptocurrency is the politics around the bipartisan infrastructure bill, which contains the unfavorable crypto provision, and this broader $3.5 trillion package. There's going to be a lot of politics that play out in the House of Representatives over the weeks ahead that are really going to probably impact the fate of the provision that the cryptocurrency community cares about. One of the biggest things that we're looking at very closely right now is how the politics around these two packages in the House are going to impact the ability to amend the underlying bipartisan infrastructure bill. So there are different factions within the Democratic Party that want different levels of infrastructure spending. The White House obviously would love to have a win going into the election. The Republicans in the Senate who are supportive of the bipartisan infrastructure package would like to see that go through. But Nancy Pelosi in the House really does want to see this larger package go through. And so unfortunately, just like we saw at sort of the end game where Senator Shelby came and objected to a very reasonable compromise because he didn't get his amendment, we are now, unfortunately, more of a pawn in sort of the broader political game right now. And so it's going to be interesting to watch these developments to see if a window opens up for us to go in and try to get that language fixed once again.
So, Kristin, if taking a look at the House, what do we know about how it's divided in terms of people who are more amenable to fixing the definition of what's a broker, people who aren't, and people who can be swayed? Do we have those three columns broken out? Do we know the numbers in there?
The lobbying team right now in Washington, and that includes the lobbyists for the Blockchain Association as well as our coalition allies, are working through to try to get a complete sort of whip count of where the House would stand and being open to change that. The good news is we did see a couple of different letters come from different bipartisan groups from the House to the Senate in support of the Wyden amendment. We also saw Representative Ro Khanna tweeted in favor of it. So I think there's definitely an appetite on behalf of lawmakers to try to fix that provision in the House. The key is going to be whether or not they open it up for amendment and for debate. And so that is something that we are working on right now and with our coalition allies to try to figure out what is the best way to get in there and get this language changed. And, this is something that we've been aware of all of the time. And so that's why there was such a focus on the Senate, because that did seem like the best opportunity to go in and get this fixed. But we're going to do everything we can at the Blockchain Association to fight this in the House. And if for some reason it doesn't get changed before being enacted into law, there'll be another bite at the apple when the regulatory process kicks off at Treasury. So it's definitely, there are multiple steps ahead of us, and a little bit frustrating that it wasn't able to be fixed in the Senate. But looking forward, I think that Washington realizes that they do need to pay attention to the crypto industry, that this is an organized community, a very vocal community, and one that's going to have a lot more influence going forward.
So, Kristin, what happens if it just doesn't get through? Like, if we just can't get this amendment or these compromises and the bill just continues to go through in its current form? And it looks like the likelihood of that happening is not that low. Like, this could happen. What's the next step?
Yeah, well, the next step is, this would become statute, and then the IRS and Treasury would issue a rulemaking to figure out the precise regulations for implementing the law. And there is an open public process around that. And what we've seen out of, many different senators over the past week, including Senator Portman, who is the author of this provision, they have said publicly via Twitter and also on the Senate floor that this language is not intended to go after validators like miners and stakers or software developers. The problem is the way it's written, it can very easily be interpreted to do that. And so one of our jobs is going to be, if this does get signed into law as is to work through that rulemaking process to make sure that the IRS doesn't take that newfound authority and run with it, but instead tailors it to match the intent of the lawmakers. So this is a process that, is going to drag out for many months and potentially even many years going forward. So it's a long road ahead of us unless we can find an opportunity to get it fixed.
I find it interesting that the senator who objected to the amendment, Senator Shelby of Alabama, also tweeted on Twitter that he actually supports the crypto compromise provision. So there you have it. That's politics for you. Kristin, we got to end it there. But thank you for trudging through that political swamp and taking the time to tell us what's going on our show. Appreciate your time.
Great to be here.
All right, that was Blockchain Association Executive Director Kristin Smith. Coming up, checking in on Asia and crypto markets update with self-trading and investment platform My Digital Money. That's next.
From fueling local economies to connecting global markets, the future of money is taking shape now. Crypto State by CoinDesk will bridge communities of crypto investors, thought leaders, and developers to tell the global story of decentralized finance. Join us for this virtual event series as we make stops in Israel, Bahrain, and the United Arab Emirates to dive into the movements that are disrupting markets and changing communities. Register today.
Time now for the daily forecast, an update on what's happening in the Asia crypto markets. Here's Angie Lau of Forecast News.
Welcome to the Daily Forecast, August 11th, 2021. I'm Angie Lau, Editor-in-Chief of Forecast News. Coming up, Poly Network suffers one of the largest hacks in DeFi history. Small and mid-sized miners struggle in China's mining exodus. And Cardano's ADA hits a 2-month high. Let's get you up to speed from Asia to the world. First up, DeFi sees its biggest hack in history. Poly Network has suffered a potential loss of around $600 million in the attack. The decentralized finance platform tweeted to say that hackers had stolen thousands of digital tokens by exploiting a vulnerability in its network. Forecast News' Monica Ghosh has the latest.
In a tweet, Poly Network posted an open letter asking for the assets to be returned. The protocol was launched last year by Chinese blockchain project Neo's founder Da Hongfei, along with Ontology and Switcheo. It operates on the Binance Smart Chain, Ethereum, and Polygon blockchains, each of which were hacked and tokens including Binance Coin, Ether, and USDC taken. Their value means this surpasses the historic attack on Mt. Gox. But with China-based blockchain security company Slowmist hot on their heels, one expert told Forecast News that it should be easy to chase the hackers.
Everybody can work together, to find out who did this. I think that kind of pressure is a good part of the public chain.
The hackers have since left messages on the Ethereum network suggesting the funds may be returned, and Poly Network has prepared a multi-signature wallet in anticipation. For Forecast News, I'm Monica Ghosh.
Meanwhile, we are learning more about the impact of Beijing's clampdown on miners. As crypto miners work on plans to exit the country following new policy direction from the top, many more are struggling. While bigger miners like Hong Kong headquartered Poolin have the resources to move operations out of China quickly, Forecast News has learned small and mid-sized operations aren't faring as well. Forecast News correspondent Timmy Shen has this exclusive from Taipei, Taiwan.
While big miners like Poolin were able to quickly relocate executives to seek deals in places which have proved very welcoming to their energy needs, such as Texas, the situation is much harder for smaller players.
There's like those, smaller, mid-sized mining farms who are in the middle of nowhere in China. Basically, they don't speak English. They relatively have not traveled that much outside of China. So for them, it's very difficult for them to relocate outside of China because they don't have a capital either most of the time.
Tiradores says it will take some time to establish the full extent of the exodus, as many smaller miners have sold their machines or put them in storage while they consider their options in terms of regulation and electricity prices. For Forecast News, I'm Timmy Shan, Taipei, Taiwan.
And finally, continued big moves for Cardano. Cardano's ADA has hit a 2-month high and a lot of interest during Asia trading hours. According to data from CoinMarketCap.com, ADA gained more than 25% over the past 7 days of trading, hitting $1.73 US shortly after the Asian trading day began on Wednesday. It fell slightly after that. A few things that coincide with the run. First, Cardano's Alonzo Purple upgrade, which started onboarding users to its testnet over the weekend. It will ultimately allow for smart contract capability on the network and will be the first fully public mainnet to facilitate decentralized finance. Then, in a speech to the community that was uploaded to Twitter on Tuesday, Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano, said the company will announce a date for the launch of full support of smart contracts by the end of this week. He also teased that it will take place before the upcoming Cardano Summit, due to take place next month. However, the exact date for that event is not yet clear. In an earlier tweet, Hoskinson also said he expects a madhouse after the smart contracts launch and that there will be tons of dApp development. Ethereum had been the network of choice for minting NFTs up to this point, but the Alonzo Purple hard fork could change that by bringing further applications to Cardano. It's another option for the market, and that can't be a bad thing. And that's the daily forecast from our vantage point right here in Asia. For more, visit forecast.news. I'm Editor-in-Chief Angie Lau. Until the next time.
The Crypto Markets Update is presented by Grayscale, the world's largest digital currency asset manager.
Time for a live look at Bitcoin. Would you look at that? If you just blink, Bitcoin will be up 1% since the 20 minutes that we last checked on it, now trading at $46,300. And the Coindesk Ether Price ETX Index right now at 32.39. ETH is up 1.5% over the past 24 hours, and the new DFX Coindesk's DeFi Index is trading at $711. DeFi is up almost 4% over the day. And joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Guy Gotslak, president and co-founder of self-trading and investment platform My Digital Money. Welcome to the show, Guy. So you see Bitcoin and the crypto markets taking a bit of a charge forward. What's propping up the crypto markets?
Yeah, I think in general, it's all the institutions coming in. And I think the regulations in the long run, everything that's been happening is a good thing. It signals that, crypto is entering mainstream. So I think, I choose to take an optimistic view on what's happening. In the short term, there's some setbacks, but just, the fact that crypto was considered for such a large infrastructure bill to be, so significant, I think that, it's signaling that it's mainstream, it's here to stay, and, people are seeing that more and more. And, AMC just also, announced that it's going to accept Bitcoin in next year. So there are a lot of different events, and I think, generally it's going to continue. We might see a little resistance, but I believe long term it's a rocket ship.
So in terms of the regulatory front, is it really that people are looking at this and seeing it as a positive or optimistic sign, or does it just kind of not matter, right? Like the market is just kind of operating independent of what's happening in Washington? My personal view is that it seems closer to the latter, just in the sense that, like, if you look at the headlines, it definitely seems negative, and in general, traders react to headlines. But I'm curious what your view is.
Yeah, I think at least my view is that it doesn't matter that much, because the regulators they're not against crypto, right? It's just politics what ended up happening, and so I think in general it's being accepted. It's being I think the U.S. government does want to have innovation stay here, right? And that's been expressed by different individuals. So I don't see the government as wanting to hinder this, and hopefully people are seeing through this as well, through the politics. So yeah, that's my view.
So Guy, where is the interest coming from now? For a long time and until very recently, most of it has been Asia, but we're starting to see increased interest in the U.S. Is that interest in U.S. from institutions or from retail? Is the market shifting to the U.S.? And if so, what component? Is it the retail or institutions?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is the bans that happened in China, miners moving over to the U.S. and to Texas, and some states becoming more friendly from a regulatory perspective, and just institutions signaling that it's a big part of our financial future by applying to set up funds and also just all the institutional investments that have happened. It's just some big names have gotten into this. So in the U.S. So yeah, I think it's just that's the way it's moving.
On your platform, what kind of activity have you seen?
Yeah, there was a bit. It started off very strong. It was pretty strong in May, and then in July it kind of slowed down. But recently it's picked up again with the market. There's been some hesitation.
That's mostly retail, right?
Yeah, retail. Yeah, so we have a self-trading platform that allows people to invest using a crypto IRA. Retail investors can come in and their gains are tax deferred until retirement. And so that's obviously really good because you don't have to worry about gains, especially right now, and you don't have to worry about tax reporting because we got it all handled for you. So especially with everything going on right now, it's something that people really like.
All right, Guy, thanks for the update. That was My Digital Money President, Guy Gotslak. Coming up, Bitcoin is hot, but Web3 tokens are hotter. That discussion with CoinFund, that's coming next.
CoinDesk Indexes, the market standard for crypto assets since 2014. Our trusted data powers billions in publicly traded funds. CoinDesk Indexes are the standard used by institutions, and they're the key for investors looking to understand and access crypto markets.
As the company that launched the world's first ever Bitcoin ETF, we at Purpose chose the CoinDesk Bitcoin Price Index, the XBX, to price our assets.
CoinDesk Indexes enabled the early adopters to build crypto investment vehicles, and they're already trusted by a new generation of global investors.
The CoinDesk Spotlight is brought to you by Nexo, the place to earn on Bitcoin, Ethereum, and more.
Welcome back. Bitcoin and ETH are on a tear, but they're not the hottest tokens out there on the crypto markets. Web3 tokens like Livepeer, Helium, and BitTorrent have also been soaring in value this year. The sector is up almost 300% year to date. Joining us now to discuss is Vanessa Grellet, head of portfolio growth at CoinFund. Welcome to the show, Vanessa. So you're taking a deep dive and a look at Web3. So give us an explainer for those viewers out there who are not aware of what Web3 tokens are.
So Ethereum just went through a major upgrade, and that is fueling a little bit the trust in the future of Web3. And Web3 tokens are really the ones that bridge the gap basically between Web2 and Web3 and build the infrastructure of the new internet. So, companies like Livepeer, which helps video live streaming, is really fueling that growth. And with the confidence that Ethereum is going to upgrade to ETH 2.0 and the advent of layer 2s, there is a real deep understanding that this is looking like the future.
In terms of the markets, do you think that some of this Bitcoin price rally that we've seen recently has been driven by Ethereum and the hard fork, or are they kind of separate phenomena?
So Ethereum's hard fork obviously is fueling price, dynamism. But, there's a lot of long-term holders of Bitcoin, and asset managers hold Bitcoin for the long term too. So, both assets move together.
So Vanessa, we saw specifically ETH transactions, as we discussed earlier. ETH transactions on Coinbase were higher in Q2 compared to Bitcoin. It's a small amount, but nonetheless, there was more transaction, more volume. Is that something you see continuing in the broader market this quarter, and the coming quarters? Does ETH volume outpace Bitcoin?
So there's the volumes and also the assets under management. If you look at the numbers of asset management, according to CoinShares report, in Q2 2020, Bitcoin represented 57% of all assets under management in crypto. And in Q2 2021, it represents 24%, and Ethereum went from 15% to 26%. So there's certainly a trend there. People are discovering more and more crypto assets. In Q2 2020, the other crypto assets were only 28% under management, but now they represent 50%. So we see a shift and a maturity in the market, whether it be on the trading volumes or assets under management.
Do you see that increase in volume pulling up a lot more of the alts, if you will? And if so, which ones are you most likely to see grow with ETH in the coming quarters?
Correct. So we've seen, today's price movement in the graphs, Curve, Polygon, SushiSwap. So anything fueling the DeFi movement is really there. And companies like the Graph that cut across all ecosystems also benefit from this.
So I know this is always difficult to do, but do you have any price projections for Ether, just say by the end of the year?
We usually don't disclose any price projections, so I will just state that we are quite bullish on Ether for the end of the year.
All right. Vanessa, thanks for joining us. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
That was Vanessa Grellet, Head of Portfolio Growth at CoinFund. Time now to check in with Crypto Twitter with our tweet of the day. And speaking of Web3, former Backstreet Boy, Nick Carter, tweeting, "It's absolutely incredible the things that the internet has introduced to society. Can't wait for blockchain to become even more mainstream. Big things coming in music. Web3 new breakthroughs. Hashtag." Everybody. Yeah, he wants it.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
Right, yeah.
No, I'm thinking of the puns too. All right, that's it for First Mover.
Yeah.
Thank you, Emily Parker and Lawrence Lewitinn. I'm your host, Kristin Lee. I'll be back live at 3 p.m. with all about Bitcoin. Coming up at noon is The Hash. You're watching CoinDesk TV.